is Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow for expansions.com. And of course we all know that Stewart is in Eastern Europe enjoying some wonderful Polish food and of course Polish companionship as well. He's got a stellar audience over there, which we really appreciate the support of all the people who have turned out to hear the words of hyperspace hopeful work that he has to share. And of course from there on to Vienna, and then of course from there on to Taipei, Taiwan, to meet a whole Japanese contingent. So lots of activity at expansions.com, and this is the very first week of March. I just can't believe we're there already, but here we are. So I am going to tell you some interesting stories, I think, and I'm always interested to hear what you have to say about it. So speaking of March, did you hear that there was a rare cold front that went through the Middle East on the last week of February? It went through Israel, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. And of course, I tried to find out the last time it had snowed there, and I couldn't find out from my research, but apparently that doesn't happen too often. And of course, as Stewart and I keep telling you, there is no global warming, it is global cooling. And there is a record-breaking cold descending here in the eastern U.S. However, I have recently heard that we are supposed to be warming up, and that, of course, means lots of flooding. So let's see what happens. And I guess Prince William heard that Stewart was going to Asia. So before he went, in preparation for Stewart's journey, of course, Prince William is having a dance-like tea ceremony served by a master and walking through a magical garden. Now to me that sounds like a lot of programming terms going on in there, and ritual as well. Apparently he will be there for 4 days, and we want to remember that 4 is the number of physical reality of anchoring it in. And not only will he have the tea ceremony, he'll be going to Fukushima, and he's going to be putting on traditional attire for dinner with the Prime Minister. Now, where did we hear about that before? Obama did this in China, and I always keep bringing up that on Prince William's 21st birthday, you want to remember that Queen Elizabeth did the same. She dressed up as an African queen, of which I have told you about before, and of course the story continues now with our dear Prince Harry, because Prince Harry, after, they say, serving 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, well, I'm not so sure about that. I kind of think they fly him in there, take a few photo ops, and, probably fly him out, but that's what they're saying. He's saying he's saying goodbye to his military career, and now guess what he's going to do? He's going to further his African charity efforts. I'd say this has more to do with the Queen and her dressing as an African queen. He said that he just loves doing work with children, and he plans on spending a significant amount of time in Africa doing charitable work and focusing on conservation and wildlife initiatives. In addition, he co-founded a nonprofit charity called Sentabale, which helps underserved youths in Lesotho. According to USAID, more than 350,000 children are orphaned in Lesotho. That's a lot of children, and roughly 180,000 of them have lost parents to the virus. Now, we all hear about all the situation that's going on in the UK, and as well with the global handlers that has to do with pedophilia. So with that said, I'm going to let you put 2 and 2 together, because that's kind of what's going on in my mind. Anyway, moving along to Madonna. Most of you by now have probably heard about her fall at the Brits Award. Now, I watched that little clip, and I do believe she did not expect that to happen, but it looked to me like the people behind her actually pulled her down. However, she claims that her cape failed to open, which I believe it was probably purposely sabotaged, and she fell down and was picked up along with the words of the songs that were singing. And that whole scene was very highly ritualistic. So anyway, I just thought more stuff going on in the world, and for who knows what that's happening. Following on the heels of Madonna, so to speak, we have Kim Kardashian, who's been in the news a lot, and Rita Ora, who attended the same party in nearly identical pink latex dress. Now, why is that news, and why am I telling you about that? The reason is because I have told you for quite some time now, many weeks, a few years, about the latex costumes that a lot of people are wearing in the cosplay and how expensive that those are. And latex, for anybody who has gone near it, is very hot, like latex gloves to wear. A latex dress I would not want to wear. I think it would be very, very hot. So this brings out, again, more programming, more ritualistic activity, and it focuses them in the news. So there's two of them that, of course, are twins. So be prepared for more latex things. We've seen the horse head mask, the whole head mask go on. A lot of very strange things happening, but I keep telling you about that. That they're making it more and more open to the general public, where the general public just automatically does what they're told to do. And then this came across my desk, which was very interesting, so I did a little research. And this is about a company that claims to make belts and shoes out of human skin. So I thought, well, this again sounds so crazy, maybe it's true. And one of the articles I found in my research actually came out a couple of years ago by the researchers at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. Now notice how they segue into something that we technically accept into something that's probably not so acceptable as a general rule. Anyway, in the article, the CDC recommended avoiding indoor tanning at all costs. They talked about skin cancer. They said beware of the damaging effects of sunlight. And then they went on to say that while beneficial to the health of the general population, the CDC advice is also crucial for those who want their body to maintain its aesthetic beauty throughout life, and in the case of those who donate their body to fashion manufacture human leather after they have passed away. Now, why would the CDC start talking about this in an article unless they want you to do such things? So I thought this was very interesting. So I want to go ahead with this for your education, because it certainly was educating to me. The UK company and its employees brand themselves as, quote, specialists in producing exquisite and exclusive products for an extremely discerning clientele. So in other words, they get human skin that people donate, and then they work with it and they sell it for a very high price to people who can afford it, which most likely is not going to be you and I who are watching this particular show. They said that all products are carefully handcrafted by experienced master craftsmen with years of experience in handling the finest leather known as human leather. So the name is not a hyperbole. Human leather claims to use the skin of willing donors, and I would look into willing sometimes, who signed off on their bodies, turning them into belts, wallets, and shoes before death. Human leather, well, I was to say, oh, they signed off before they died. Okay, that's good. Made it sound like it was after they... Anyway, human leather is produced from skin sourced from normal everyday people, their website says. There are a few areas of the body, such as the back and abdomen, that have uninterrupted skin coverage and are therefore the best for processing into human leather, unquote. Apparently, the business has the legal right to do this and has done so since the 17th century, and I say probably before that, when people reportedly bound books with human skin in a practice known as anthropodermic bibliophagy. You'll have to look that one up. Due to the short supply of materials and the company's express desire to, quote, cater to a small but highly discerning clientele who are amongst those lucky few who have everything they could possibly desire, the products are expensive. So if you had all the money in the world, would you want things made of human skin? I ask you that. So the price of a wallet starts around $14,000. Clients should expect to pay at least $27,000 for the privilege of owning footwear made of human leather. It said the company's practices are cloaked in privacy. They do not post pictures of their completed commissioned products, the length of the waiting list for their products, or the identities of their sources. And just like animal leather products, our raw human skin is transformed into the finest grade human leather by using a traditional tanning process, the website states. However, human leather is the finest grain leather that is obtainable, And it also says it is free from defects and has the smallest grain size, which makes it the smoothest, softest leather on earth. Now, while researching this, I also found out that there is a museum in, of all places, Big Rapids, Michigan, called the Jim Crow Museum. And apparently during the times of slavery, the skin of black people was also prized for for leather products. And then, of course, we've also heard about the Nazis using the skin of their captives for human leather. So the fact that the CDC is making people aware of this, to me, is very, very telling. I've also been reporting to you on stories about Uber, because in my opinion, Uber has got to be some kind of a trigger word. Well, now, this is being combined with the Waffle House. I don't know if you've heard of the Waffle House, but apparently it's a Southern breakfast favorite chain, I guess, of places where people like to go to have waffles. Now, waffle is not exactly used anymore the way I grew up with it besides the food, but people would say they were going to waffle on a decision. That meant back and forth. So you weren't quite on one side of the fence, you weren't quite on the other. So now we have Uber and we have waffling. And how do the two of these combine? Apparently, the Waffle House wants to compete with FedEx, UPS, and the United States Post Office. And so they're going to work with a company called Roadie Inc. to launch a new delivery service with Waffle House restaurants serving as drop-off points. To me, this all sounds bizarre. Basically, customers will use Roadie's app to find drivers already heading toward their package's destination. Then the drivers will deliver the mail to Waffle House location where the intended recipient can pick it up. Now, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just have it come to your house, right? So for their trouble, the drivers get a free waffle when they download the app and a free drink when they make the delivery. It's just bizarre to me. And for the last 60 years, Waffle House has been a place for travelers and a preferred meeting place for our customers, says their CEO. So then he continues, Roadie combines the two, making it easy for senders and drivers who love waffles to meet at the nearest Waffle House, and who doesn't love waffles? I mean, Uber and waffles. It's got to be something strange going on there. And then, speaking of Uber, it comes under fire again, this time in Taiwan, China. Of course, Taiwan is where Stewart's headed, so we have the Brents going to Japan, and the Japanese contingent's going to go meet him in Taiwan, and then the Prince is going on to China. So all of this, I know, must have something to do with Stewart. Anyway, Uber Technologies, Inc. is under fire in Taiwan and the Chinese mainland because it says the drivers are not appropriately licensed. Apparently, it's also has issues that are similar to this in Thailand and Spain. And let's see. It says there's a lack of regulation for the relatively new business model has brought Uber and similar taxi-hailing companies to the attention of authorities worldwide. So again, all of a sudden something appears on the scene. Sounds like it's been around forever. Something's going on here. And now this was very interesting because you might want to remember Stewart talking about visiting with the president of Iceland, and at that particular speech that he attended, the president of Iceland said that Iceland was the only country with new land that was actually forming and that their country was growing. Well, apparently for the past 30 years via satellite, the researchers in Atlanta have been watching new land form off the coast of Louisiana. Who knew? Apparently, it's growing at about 1/2 square mile per year, and researchers now say that this is how scientists can further land development studies along the coastlines and perhaps learn how to make more of it grow. So, you know, we have talked for many years about land rising, and even though global warming was talking about land sinking, and now we have more about land rising. So interesting things. So that is my main news, and as I said, you know, so it's interesting in its own way, but you know, there's a lot of violence going on in the world right now. The ISIS things are still going on. I mean, every time somebody's shooting somebody, and I told you when all of this happened that there would come a time when there's so much of it that you really don't even hardly pay attention. And unfortunately, that's becoming very true. However, in my opinion, the global handlers are out to set you up to be afraid. And of course, by fear is how they handle people and the masses. So with that in mind, excuse me, I decided that my blog topic for March would be on removing fear and establishing courage. Because there are a lot of those political stories I can be reporting on and all the violent stories I can be reporting on, but I really didn't want to propagate those types of mind patterns. So I gave you a little background information on other things to be wary of and to think about. But I think overall, when you see everything that's going on out there, I think it's really important that you delve deep within your own mind and you remove those fear mind patterns, because without that, there's no way that these things can touch you in any way, shape, or form. My affirmations blog this month is going to be called, or is called, Spiritual Warrior, and I wrote a small piece about that, several years ago, and so I'm rerunning that article as well. So I do hope you will join me on the blog side, and the Spiritual Warrior article is on the free side. Also, please remember that our spring seminar is right around the corner, and that's going to be right here in St. Joseph, Michigan. Addicted to Addictions, Get Hooked on Health Instead. And some people are addicted to negative mind patterns, such things as fear and hate and retribution and resentment and low self-worth, those kind of things. So we're going to be talking about addictions in all of its form. So if you're alive on this planet, this seminar is actually very, very good for you. And the Hilton Garden Inn is going to be putting on for us a very special burger buffet luncheon. So I hope you will join us for that as well, because it's an opportunity to get to know your fellow attendees, to develop friendships and have some lifelong support. It's amazing. The people who come, they come from all over the world. They connect on a very deep level and they stay connected, which is really great. And of course, please like our Facebook page and share our Facebook page and help people everywhere learn about hyperspace oversoul techniques, because it is only by changing your mind pattern that we will change the world. And we can do this together, starting with you. Each and every person is extremely important. Thank you for joining me. I'm Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow for Expansions.com.